Good evening to everyone who has joined us for the third episode of Samvaad, which is our monthly podcast of the Kalinga Institute of Indo-Pacific Studies on uh, affairs of the Indo-Pacific. The aim of Samvaad is to provide an informed, precise, and incisive analysis and assessment of developments in the Indo-Pacific. And today, we are very honored indeed to have a guest of eminence, Professor Yoichiro Sato, who is a very good friend of KIIPS and has always been there for us when his expertise has been required. Professor Yoichiro Sato is currently with the Ritsumeikan Asia Pacific University. Previously, he taught at the U.S. Department of Defense Asia Pacific Center for Security Studies and Auckland University, New Zealand, and has been a visiting professor at multiple institutions. His more than 10 published books include the US Japan Security Alliance, Regional Institutions, Geopolitics and Economics in the Asia Pacific, and Re Rising Japan. His comments have appeared in various global media, including the Time magazine, Newsweek, Al Jazeera, Agence Presse France, and the Nikkei Asian Review. So, as you see, we could not have had a better person than Professor Sato to deliberate and engage in a conversation and discussion with Dr. Shreya Upadhayay, my colleague and Honorary Deputy Director of KIIPS. We are here to talk about a country which is often attributed as having initiated this discussion and debate on the confluence of the two oceans, which is the Indian Ocean and the Pacific Ocean. So, without any further ado, now I request Shreya to carry forward this conversation with Professor Sato. The floor is yours, Shreya. Thank you.
Thank you. And without much ado, I welcome you, Professor Sato. And my first question to you is, can you take us through Japan's role and relevance in the emerging quest for a rules-based order in the Indo-Pacific?
Sure. Yeah, Japan's very much interested in the preserving, for example, the maritime freedom of navigation. And this is particularly important for Japan's trade, but also for defense, because Japan's primary ally, the United States, is a naval power which is active and very important for the maritime security in both the Indian Ocean and the Pacific Ocean. So ensuring this connectivity and also from there to the extension of the maritime passage into the Persian Gulf as well as Red Sea and the Mediterranean is critical importance for both Japan and the United States. Japan doesn't try to do everything on its own with Japan's own navy, but Japan wants to work in concert with other naval powers to ensure that the maritime passage remains open.
So again, what do you think are some of the major concerns driving Japan's Indo-Pacific strategy?
The part of this very important sea lanes is under the China's expanding claim and also China's growing naval activities. But I think the foremost concern is in the South China Sea and also the Taiwan Straits, where China has demonstrated its willingness to use military forces to justify its claims and the growing control of those regions.
So, I mean, definitely with regards to China, then again, in your perspective, what are the significant shifts in Japan's security and economic outlook as it navigates the future of Indo-Pacific?
Well, in terms of security, Japan has realized that it has to be more active in ensuring this the rule-based order in the maritime domain. And just in talking about the rhetorical support for international law of the sea doesn't do enough job in terms of ensuring the safety of this maritime passage. So Japan's enhancing cooperative agreement with other littoral countries in order to facilitate uh, the active role of the maritime self-defense forces in the distant areas, because the Japanese naval vessels need some basis for operations, whether for logistical or for replenishing water, or for the relaxation for the crews. For various purposes, Japan need regional support to be more active. So Japan's been working with other countries, and Japan has its first post-World War II overseas naval base in Djibouti, and Japan has recently signed an agreement with the Philippines, and the Japanese ships, as of speaking, visiting the Philippine ports on the side of the joint exercise Japan conducted with the Philippines, US, and Australia. So, so those are the signs that Japan's becoming more active militarily, but also economically, Japan is revising its over dependence on trade with China, and Japan has joined the US-led effort to kind of restructure the economic relationship in the region, and to some degree diversify away from China for critical material and technology.
In all of this, Japan and India are also working together in Indo-Pacific. Can you highlight some of the major convergences and also divergences between India and Japan when it comes to an Indo-Pacific understanding and how they are, making policies around Indo-Pacific?
Well, in terms of convergence, I think both Japan and India are very much sharing their concern against the safety of this maritime trade routes between the two oceans. And they share that the China is a growing threat. But beyond that, I think there are some divergences, especially in regard to India's relation with Russia. Um, India sees Russia as an important partner for energy supply and also defense supplies, and to some degree also the kind of diplomatic partner within the BRICS formation. So Japan, on the other hand, has more clearly sided with the United States and Western European countries in terms of its position toward Russia. So the divergence between India and Japan have already surfaced when, for example, Japan requested stopover for its military cargo plane in India on the way to deliver the bulletproof vest for the Ukrainians. And that kind of divergence has surfaced. But I think overall, despite some of those differences, India and Japan are very closely working on addressing the threat of China.
And as you know, that this podcast is aimed at a lot of times at our young readers. So for our young viewers, so for the benefit of them, what would be your advice to our young researchers from your illustrious career?
Well, I think studying international relation is not only fun, but it's very important in terms of training future leaders of each country. And I think both India and Japan have growing interest in the study of international relations, and they should not only study the subject within their own country, but try to gain experiences overseas, and if possible, spend a few years studying overseas. And that will really broaden the perspectives to be able to comprehend this very dynamic and complex region and its international politics.
I think it was very, pointed, and we really enjoyed. Monish, now over to you.
Thank you, Shreya. Thank you so much for conducting this brilliant discussion with Professor Yoichiro Sato-san. Thank you, Professor Sato. It was indeed, you know, we covered a lot of points of thoughts within these few minutes. It's really a brilliant capsule on trying to at least know the pointers of where what we want to study and which are the themes that we want to pick up if we were to try and understand Japan's outlook towards the Indo-Pacific and Japan's strategy. And as you rightly said at the end, for all of us, I think of different generations who are studying international relations and also the foreign policy of their own countries, it's indeed a time which is both interesting, puzzling, and uncertain. A lot of things are evolving and happening around us, and I think it's a great time to not only know your country from inside, but also to know your country from outside, which is to understand how we view the world and also how the world views us. So thank you so much, Professor Sato-san. Thank you, Professor Chintamani Patra, our founder and chairperson, for joining us during this discussion and deliberation. Thank you to Upahar Datta, and thank you to all my colleagues at KIIPS who make such interesting discussions happen. And stay tuned to Samvaad, Indo-Pacific, and the World, the monthly podcast from the Kalinga Institute of Indo-Pacific Studies for more such incisive, informed, and precise debates and discussions to follow. Thank you so much. Jai Hind.